we've got all these ideas and we don't know what to launch first and how to launch it. So it's about identifying the different services that you have. Do they become their own little products? And again, going back to MVP, are we just going to start with one and then we'll get that right, launch with that, and then grow them from there? Yeah. And then we become familiar with the process, and it's much easier on service number 2 and 3 to start.
Hello and welcome to Truth on a Pedestal, a podcast solely dedicated to talking about how businesses are started and how brands are built. I'm Justine, founder and creative director of Malone Co Studio, and this is Truth on a Pedestal. Today I'm talking with the beautiful Laura, who is a startup coach. Hi Laura, how are you?
Hi, good, thanks Justine. How are you?
I'd love you to introduce yourself and your business.
Thank you. So my name's Laura Hultgren. I'm from Business Empowered, and I'm a startup business coach and a small business marketing specialist. So I specialise in local businesses.
Right. And the reason that I wanted Laura to be on the podcast is because a lot of people who listen to this podcast either have small businesses or want to start. So I thought that she would have some really great advice about how to get through the first hurdles, how to take some steps and some action, and especially into marketing once we launch. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I know that there's going to be a lot of people that enjoy listening to this and taking some tips away.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to know how you became a startup coach in the first place. So tell me a little bit about your background.
Yes. So I grew up in a family business, and my parents had a pie shop. They always had businesses before I was even born. So I feel like it was always in my blood to have the dream of having my own business. Yeah. So I started out working for a family business, and I just saw that there was things that I could maybe apply to my parents' business. So I was kind of always on the lookout of that might apply for mum and dad's business. And I always took a marketing lens. I think I just had a natural passion for it because they were the things that I picked up. And then being a family business, I was always trying to help them get more business, grow their business, get more customers. So I just naturally took that lens and have just always looked out for ways that initially it was my parents could grow their business. And from there on, I started helping other people with their businesses as well. So yeah, that's where my passions come from.
I got to go back to the family pie shop. Like, that is such an Australian, I'm not going to say typical thing, it is not, but what is it like? Where was the pie shop and what was it like, still running a business like that?
Yeah.
I go into them and they are full on.
Yes, it was full on. So it was my mum and dad, and they had a couple of employees that worked for them. So it was quite a small business, and they were in Bayswater in Victoria. Yeah.
Still running?
It is still running, yes. It has new owners, yeah. Yeah.
And how old were you when did you used to work there with them?
I did used to work there a little bit, but it wasn't my favourite thing to do. So I always was trying to get out and get other jobs. But I remember I actually used to be a chef. And in between doing my chef pre-apprenticeship and getting a job, I remember wanting to go on holidays, and Mum was like, no, you've got to come and work in the pie shop for a couple of weeks in between. So my sister worked in the pie shop in the bakery for about a year or so. But I always, I did work in the business, but it was always from a marketing point of view predominantly. So, yeah.
So you grew up in Bayswater then, I'm assuming?
I grew up in Ferntree Gully, and then we moved to Hillsville when I was 9.
Yeah.
So Mum and Dad used to drive backwards and forwards to the shop every day. Yeah, and my dad worked really hard in that bakery. He would get up somewhere between midnight and 3 a.m. in the morning every day, go down to the bakery, finish work no earlier than 3 o'clock in the afternoon, come drive all the way to Hillsville, and then get up and do it again the next day. And in winter, when it was their busiest time, he would sometimes do that 6 or 7 days a week. So yeah, I saw him work really hard. Yeah. Yep.
And so once they finally sold that, you moved on. After high school, is that when you?
Yes. So I left school and went and did my apprenticeship. Yeah. But not long after that, I decided that wasn't what I wanted to do anymore. And I worked in a, accommodation venue and boutique hotel. It was a family business. So they offered me some work in reception, and I worked there many years, and I did a lot of marketing. I was very lucky because their daughter was the marketing person, but she'd gone off on maternity leave. So she was kind of my mentor and remote manager, because she would just pop in or we'd just email each other, and I would execute a lot of the marketing that we would discuss. And yeah, so she kind of guided me with my first official marketing job. Yeah.
So with the stuff that you do for your parents in the pie shop, that was just you trying to figure it out?
So at that point, I was only taking little bits and pieces, and I think my first suggestion from mum and dad, which I laugh now, was like, oh, maybe we should get some branded pens. Like, I was just sort of trying everything. And but then as the time went on, I also worked at a media agency.
Yeah.
So I picked up a lot from that, and I used to go into the presentations from the media companies, and I'd think, oh, this could be good for mum and dad. And yeah, I just would learn things online, and just was always trying to think like what could be applied to mum and dad's business on a shoestring budget, because I knew that they worked really hard, but they didn't have the profit there to be able to put into expensive marketing. So yeah, it was always looking at it on a lens of a shoestring budget.
And that's really valuable in marketing, especially with startups, is to know how to use tiny budgets.
Yes.
And be smart with it. So what made you want to become a chef in the first place?
Oh, well, that was a funny one. I was at school and I was doing really well in the class, and my mum kind of suggested to me, oh, would you like to be a chef, because, you know, you do really well at it, you enjoy it. And I thought about it and was like, yep, that's something that I could consider doing. So I think a lot of the time people put a lot of pressure on us, like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to think that we have to have our careers sorted. But from my point of view, I just was like, yeah, I haven't really thought about this. I don't know what I want to do with my life. That sounds good. I really enjoy it. I'll give it. There are some things that I really didn't enjoy. So they were an absolute no. This is maybe a yes. I'm just going to explore that path. And I've never tackled anything thinking, oh, this is me forever. Like I make this decision and I'm sticking with it forever. I always just think, I have this view of my life is going down a path, and at each decision it's like a crossroads. So I can either take the path left or I can take the path right, and I'm never ever going backwards. I'm always just coming across a new path, and it's always left or right, left or right. So yeah,
because I think a lot of youth, yeah, you're right. We put there's a lot of pressure on people saying, what do you, and it's not about that's what you do forever. It's like, just what are you doing next?
Yes.
Even if it's for 4 years, because it will lead to something else.
Yeah.
And yeah, you come to a crossroads and there's like left or right. It's not right or wrong.
Yeah.
Every path has its good and bad things as well. I love that.
Yeah.
So you did chefing. Did you become a qualified chef?
Yes, I am a qualified chef, and I kept doing that for a long time while I was also working in the administration part of that same business.
Yeah.
So I really had my finger on all the pies in that business, and that's when I was also doing some of the operations and the marketing for that small business.
So you were learning that probably parents' business and then this one,
yeah,
and both sides of the business.
Yes,
learning from.
Yeah, and that one, when I say it was a small business, it was a family business, but it actually had probably a lot more turnover. We did conferences and weddings, and we had accommodation. At one point, we had a chef's hut in our restaurant. It was in regional Victoria, but it has closed down now. So, yeah, it was actually it was bigger than mum and dad's, but it was still a family business. And in a sense, it was still a small business. Yeah. But yeah, still lots to apply.
So what happened when you decided?
Well, that decision was more, I wanted to move to the city. So I was like, how do I transfer the skills that I have here? I was very lucky. Like the family were beautiful and they gave me so many opportunities, and I got to do lots of different things. I was like, how do I translate that into something in a job in the city where these are bigger businesses and they sort of have more specialized roles for different things? So when I first started at the media agency, I actually was office manager and personal assistant. And I pretty quickly thought, I'm going to need a bit more here, because otherwise I'm going to be looking for extra work. Like I'm going to need some more challenge. Like I nailed that not to sound cocky or anything, but I felt very comfortable with that job very quickly. So yeah. I'm probably going to want another challenge pretty soon. Yeah. So a couple of months in, I think it was maybe about 3 months in, someone left the digital media team. And my manager actually said to me, "Oh, would you like to step in, because we can get someone to fill your role temporarily and we can train you up to do this digital media role." And I was really excited about that because...
Year was this in?
Oh, it was maybe 2009 or 10. So, yeah. So the digital team was, at that point, was separate from the traditional media.
Yeah.
And then while I was in the team, we got merged into one team, so traditional and digital, and they decided that they sort of wanted everybody to be able to do everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the time that I went in, it was digital and
So what was it was digital.
so I was digital media executive. Yes. So I was working in a team with a couple of other people, and we were looking after a few big accounts. So some of them were like FMCG. They were retailers, property clients. Yeah.
Okay.
So
so they would come to that agency to get all of their print, digital, online, everything done.
Yes.
And you just had to make sure.
Yes. Yep. So for the digital side of things, we would buy the placements. Yeah. We would send off the request for the creative, and then we would get it back and we would upload it all into the system, and then we'd run all the reports and make sure that it was all running and delivering properly. And then...
What was that job like?
I really enjoyed it. I really had to learn. I had 2 weeks handover with the girl that was leaving, and she basically said, "Okay, I want you to write everything down that I tell you, because I'm only going to tell you once. But I'm here if you've got questions." So, I just wrote everything down, and then she still was there to be able to ask her questions, and then obviously had the rest of the team around me to help me as I went. So,
and how long were you there?
So I was doing that role for 2 years, but I started out just digital, and then then we were merged into one team. So we were buying like press and TV and outdoor.
What key elements from that job do you think you've learnt now that you use? You can share in that environment with.
Yeah. Oh, do you know what the one thing is? Relationships. I think I was sort of thinking about the media buying and the negotiating. Like, there's a lot of negotiating, so absolutely the negotiating. But hands down, the one thing that I learned is relationships.
So that's what I say a lot as well, is the more relationships you have in life, the easier life is, and it's genuine relationships. So that, as you said, the forced ones are the ones that you're just being really polite with and doing the right thing. They're not heartfelt, but if you really have a good relationship with somebody and it's heartfelt, you're going to care about them. You're going to step out and help them out. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So in the media world, like, we were constantly asking our media partners for favors. The clients were constantly asking us for favors. And we were also doing favors for the media partners because they were getting the business through us. And yeah, so everybody had to look after everyone, but it absolutely had to feel genuine.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you left there, first of all, why did you leave? And
well, I actually went back to being an office manager and executive assistant for the same company. So I stayed around there, and I still loved that environment.
Yeah.
But I think I wanted more variety. Yeah. So I found the job that I was doing. There was lots of different media, but not a lot of sort of variety in the role. I really love things that are quite reactive. Yeah. So I really enjoyed that side of being an office manager and executive assistant. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And then from there, where did you go?
I went to Sportbet, and I was executive assistant there. While I was there, I went to Bali for 2 weeks and I did a Learn to Code course. And yeah, I just was always, I'm really passionate about personal development and learning and all things marketing, because it always had a place. So yeah, I was always going off doing things like with the Learning to Code. it was really about, okay, well, I could stay in Melbourne and I could do a night course, and it was something like 2 nights a week after working full time. And that sounded like such a drain. Or I could go to Bali for 2 weeks and do learn to code in 2 weeks on a retreat, and we'd get to go to the beach and we'd get to have massages. I was like, that sounds like the fun way to do it. So, yeah.
So when was the time that you started to get into the business here and now? How did you merge into that?
Yes. So I was doing a lot for my parents. So we did things like created new brochures, had the new website, had the social media. So I then started to teach myself photography because I'm like, these pie photos are really ugly. And pies, I feel like they needed to be warmed up. I was like, I can tell when it's cold. Yeah, I don't want to eat it.
Taking it.
If we just put it in the oven and warm it up, it looks delicious. So just little things like that, and then making sure that we had photos with the right props in them. And then I was like, oh my God, now I need to learn the lighting because my photos don't look any good. So then
everybody.
Yeah. So
lighting.
It was all a learning journey, all the way through until the end of that. They ended up selling their business, and I then ended up picking up some other clients slowly through word of mouth. So I was sort of freelancing on the side while I had my full-time job, and I actually was passionate about both of those things, and I just enjoyed working on them both at the same time.
So at what point did you leave?
Well, I feel like this is so cliche, but COVID.
Yeah, and I talked to you. The COVID has shifted everything.
Yeah, so I was very fortunate that I was able to keep my job and work from home, but I lived in Richmond in a 2-bedroom tiny apartment, luckily on my own. But I had my cat, so he was great company. I probably would have gone stir crazy without him. I had no balcony, we were only allowed out for an hour a day. So yeah, and
as long as you have a balcony, you just sit in and feel the fresh air.
Yep. And then all my friends had started to move away as well, so I felt quite isolated. And then I'd get to the weekend and be like, what am I going to do now? So then I just pulled my laptop out, and I thought, I'm doing all this freelance work for other people, but I don't have a brand myself. So why don't I give it a go and build something for myself? And while I'm working on other people's brands, I can work on my own. So it all came out of COVID, and it just
extra time.
Yeah,
sounds like it. There we waste a lot of time. Not waste, but we can lose a lot of time sometimes.
Yeah,
doing things that might not be valuable.
Yes.
So through COVID, you created the brand that you have now.
Yes.
Same business still.
Correct.
Yes. And then with all the clients that you were helping, merged into that one under that umbrella.
Yeah. So I actually I only had a couple of freelance clients, and some of us went our separate ways because throughout that period, it was a really good learning curve for me to go, what are the things that I really want to learn? And I'm still learning every day. Do I really enjoy doing that task for this company?
Yeah.
Is that something that I want to do more of? What direction do I really want to go in? And I think that sometimes we're too hard on ourselves to think, oh my God, I have to know exactly what I'm doing from day one. And I think you do to some extent, but you have to give yourself some freedom to be able to experiment as you go, because you can learn just as much from what you don't want to do as what you do want to do.
Yeah. And not saying this is where I want to be, and not being open to change and shifting to another destination.
Yes.
To be better.
Yep.
So how did you get into, I'm really fascinated in the fact that you help people start their businesses and help them through the hurdles and even sort of emotional blocks they may have through a process. So when did you change from marketing to startup coach?
Yes. So throughout that process, I felt that I had some barriers that were preventing me from going full-time in my business. And so I signed up for a program that helped me overcome some of the things, particularly what I found were perfectionism, procrastination, fear of things like being seen, judgment, failure, success, all these things. So I knew a lot of what I was doing in the subject matter, but I was, I had a lot of, I still do a lot of the time have imposter syndrome and a lot of self-doubts.
imposter syndrome sucks.
Yes.
It's funny, when somebody pays you a compliment, you're like, no. And we have to say, learn that when somebody pays you a compliment, you take it.
Yeah.
Take it on. And cute.
Yeah.
So I worked really hard for this.
Yeah. So one thing that I used was to remind myself when I first started my job as an executive assistant at Sportsbet, I'd been an EA before for many years, and I knew that I was really good at my job. But when I started, I had this feeling of like, I've never worked in a team with other EAs before, and I feel like I'm going to get found out. Like, I'm a self-taught EA, but to be fair, there is no EA school. So we're all self-taught, or we're all taught by someone else who's self-taught.
Yeah.
But I just started to doubt myself. Like, am I going to get found out that I'm not good enough? Is someone going to turn around and say, she doesn't really know what she's doing because I'm an EA? But the longer I went on, the more I realized I do know what I'm doing, and every single EA is different. And that's the same as every business, every person in the world. I just have to remind myself I felt that way then. Yeah, and what I realized over time was I got to a point where I was like, I feel that I'm really good at what I do. I'm passionate about it. I'm really good at what I do. I know that other people compliment me on my skills. So I stopped doubting myself. So I just try and take that lesson and that example and use it in my business and say, I felt like that before and it wasn't true. And I overcame it over time when I reiterated and proved to myself that little by little, oh, I did that and it was a success. I did that and it worked. Yeah. And I just have to remind myself a lot of that.
Yes. It's one of my first bosses, because I was just starting my first ever job. And I got a really lovely email from one of the clients that, saying, really good work, absolutely love the design. And she said to me, I want you to create a folder, and it's like a feel-good folder. And every single time you get a compliment from a client or a friend or anything, you put in that folder. And the days that you're feeling like you're not good enough, you read through that folder.
Yeah.
And you read through all of the good work you've done, all the people that you've made happy. And it's like just a reminder of you have achieved a lot. So I was like,
yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So with the clients you have now, take me through a scenario of a particular client that you've taken through the startup journey. Some of the hurdles they may have faced. Yeah, we'll start just with how do they even start with you?
Yes. So at the time I'd taken on a contract role, and part of that role was to work with the businesses to provide really anything that they needed in the way of support, whether that be coaching, helping businesses start up. It was really economic development. So how can we help the town prosper? And I had the freedom to make the role my own, which I then used my strengths, which were around marketing and the coaching of business owners, and then education. So we would do networking events, we would upskill people in marketing and digital media and anything else that they might have identified that they would like to learn more about.
So what would be, like, what is your most recent client now?
The reason I wanted to tell you about a couple of clients from there, because they have started businesses in Cobden, and they are ones where I feel like a really proud mum, because two of the ladies there have started their own businesses. And it's just been a really beautiful experience to see them tick off their dreams and bring it to life. So one of them knew exactly what she wanted to do. She had the skills. She had the 20-odd years experience, but she just didn't quite know where to start to have, to get that business actually open. And the main thing is that, there can be like 20-odd things that you need to do, but in what order do I put them in? What things do I do first? What really is important? So I just worked with her to prioritize, okay, let's look at, I talk about MVP. So obviously coming from that sort of tech landscape, I often picked up on a lot of those sorts of things. So I'm like, MVP is brilliant because we're talking about minimum viable product. What is the minimum viable product for your business that you need to launch? Like when a tech company launches an app, they might have like a dream list of things that they want to launch, but they realize that there's a minimum list of things that they can do to get it to market for customers to be able to test it. And then they can come back and they can make it better based on the feedback. So when we're looking at a business, I'm like, what are the minimum things that we can do to get this business launched? And then we can start to add and improve once you've started to get customers in the door.
But with, love that so much. I love it. I've never actually thought of it that way.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of startups that, or hear a lot of people that are like trying to get every single thing done and then launch.
Yes.
But they could have launched a year before and just keep ticking. It's like this, I guess, they want to look like it's like a big red carpet reveal to their new business or their new brand.
Yeah.
You have to launch it properly, which I 100% agree on. But then if you, like what's the minimum requirements you need to get to launch? So if you're doing a product, you just need the one product launched. Like don't wait to have 10 products.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly right. Yes.
So chiropractor, for example, what was hers?
So hers wasn't so much about the different services. It was just about what are the things that I need. And it can be really practical. Like I need to find a room. Yeah. I need to be able to get a table. I need a booking system. I need people to be able to pay. And there's probably, and there's probably a few other things like health and hygiene related things that she needed to do. But it's like, let's take away all these other things that were sort of clouding your mind that you thought maybe you needed to do.
Like we need the posters on the wall and we need the what is it, the spine structure thing in the corner, like just get around the clutter.
Yes.
And because when you break it down to 4 key things to start a business, find a room. Like you go online, there's rooms for rent at probably other medical facilities as well. The booking system, there are booking systems out there. You actually just download the software. So when you break it down to a few key tasks and frazzle it, there's your first major step.
Yes.
So that's really good because like when you're in it, and I'm sure it was just all too big because she was thinking I want a chiropractic studio and maybe envisioned this huge end product where there's multiple rooms and receptionists and people waiting, and it's quite overwhelming to think of the big picture sometimes.
Yeah.
So love that.
Yes.
The key things, like always like what are the 5 key things almost that you can do and then how you do it.
Yeah. And I think that's where sometimes someone external can help get clarity for you. I know myself that I have my own business coaches and I go through my own programs, not my own programs, but I go through other people's programs as well because I need it as much as the people that I help.
Yeah.
I've got quite good at journaling and sort of self-coaching in that respect. Like I've got really good at asking myself those questions, or even if I start to observe something in someone else, I think, oh, that person's making something that could be really easy quite difficult. And then I start to think to myself, how could they make it easier? Okay, where am I doing that in my life? Where am I making something more difficult than it needs to be? And then sort of try and say, if I can notice it in someone else, like what are the things that I can maybe pick up in myself where I'm doing those same things?
You ask yourself, how can I simplify this process?
Yes.
How can I simplify the study? Like
yes, absolutely.
I'm always thinking, how can we just sometimes get through it? So that's like a first step or something that you would use or offer or do.
Yes.
Startups. What are other areas of startups?
Yes. So accountability is sort of the follow-on from that.
Yeah.
So the first part is around like the clarity of what is it that you want to do. Let's get clear on your idea. You might maybe got 3 different ideas and you're not sure. So we need to go out and you need to work out, okay, which one's the most feasible for me at this point in my time, maybe not forever, but just right now, which one's the best one?
Yeah.
And from there, it's about accountability. So let's check in. And I find often people will try and delay. And I'm not the sort of person that necessarily says, like, you need to meet with me every week. Like, I understand people get busy. So I think around about like a 3-week mark is a good amount of time. It gives people enough. Obviously, people can have them every single week if they want. They can spread them out longer. But 3 weeks is a good enough amount to be able to go away, do some of the actual work that's required, like the research and looking into the things that you need, and then coming in for the accountability check-in. So when we do the accountability check-in, I sometimes had found that people were saying, oh no, I haven't done the work, so can we push it out? And my answer to that is, no, let's not push it out. That's why you need to come in and see me, because there is a reason that you haven't done it. And it's not always because you're too busy. So let's just have a chat about that. Like, genuinely, if you are too busy, that's fine. But what I found was that people were coming in and saying, oh, I'm not sure about this, or I got stuck on that, or I'm not sure what to do about this. And so being able to talk that through and work out, like, for me, one of those examples might be a logo. Oh, I haven't made any progress. Okay, well, what's holding me up? The logo. All right, well, the logo doesn't have to hold you up from setting up the rest of your business. So let's talk through why the logo is holding you up and what else we can do along the way to get two things happening at the same time.
Yeah.
And can I talk through the logo with you to work out what the problem is there? Because, I mean, I've gone through that process myself, and sometimes making decisions, it does feel really challenging, and it is something that you can get stuck on. So if you're going through that process, what are some of the other things we can work on at the same time? Because at the end of the day, especially with service-based businesses, you don't actually have to have a logo to start a business.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a designer, so I have all the things that I want to say about logos. But yes, I think a logo to some people is like saying yes to a baby.
Yes.
Right. I heard this funny saying at some point of between a man and a woman, and might be completely off, but this is my experience. When a woman says, all right, I'm ready to start, like I'm ready to have kids, they know that they're not having a kid tomorrow. They know that in like a year's time, they'll have the baby, and they know in their head they're going to get used to it. But for a male to say, yes, I'm ready to have kids, he's like, now.
Yeah.
So it's like he needs to be ready in that moment to have a kid, and he can't extend it. This is just somebody told me. And so I kind of think it's sort of like that in business, where if you say to somebody you need a logo, they can almost see it and go, but I'm not ready to start my business right now. Like, it's not the business. So I feel like that can hold them back. It happened with my mum. She's trying to start a business, and she was hung up on the logo.
Yeah.
It's like, the logo is not the business. The logo is just the full stop that people recognize. Your business is completely like at the back end.
Yes.
So it's like a mental block.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Yeah. So obviously with product-based businesses, very different story, because that's going to be all over everything. Yeah. But with, service-based businesses, there's plenty of other, and actually with product businesses, there's still plenty of things you can be doing while waiting for that logo to go through the process.
And with product businesses, the product itself takes months to perfect. Usually, if you are a fashion designer, months, because of sampling, coming back and forth. And if you want to make sure, if you're starting from fresh and you're getting all the words, but the cuts of the garment, sizing and the cuts and the seams and all the fitting, you might go back and forth with that. And I have one client that would have taken maybe 18 months to get her samples perfect. And we had done the logo 18 months prior, and I was just sitting there.
Yeah.
So she could have come to me like 4 weeks before the final test run, and we would have been ready to go.
Yeah.
So yes, it doesn't hold you back.
No, certainly not.
And All right. So you push people through like that starting point. Once they get moving, what other similarities or holdups do people face?
I would say probably, things that I can identify with myself as well. So it might be, it's not the same for everyone. I definitely find it's different personalities, but some people don't want to put themselves out there on social media and be the face of their brand. I struggle with that myself. I'm an introvert, and it's just really not something that I have always really loved. So I've always been like a really behind the scenes sort of person, and it's a big challenge for me to push myself out of my comfort zone. Yeah. So I see that in some people, and in others, not so much. That's something that they're very natural at. But yeah, it can be just more around, we've got all these ideas and we don't know what to launch first and how to launch it. So it's about identifying the different services that you have. Do they become their own little products? And again, go back to MVP. Are we just going to start with one and then we'll get that right, launch with that, and then grow them from there? Yeah. And then we become familiar with the process, and it's much easier on service number 2 and 3 to start.
find the smallest thing possible that you could do
Yes.
so that it becomes like brushing your teeth in the day.
Yeah. Or
And add a layer.
yeah. Or like, what's the thing that you feel most comfortable with right now? Or, maybe you've already offered that service to someone before, but now you can package it up and start it as your business. So it's already half formed. So let's go with that one. And then the other ideas that you have, let's just put them on the back burner for now and get to them as you go.
So, for example, the chiropractor, I'm so in the deep end here with their skill set. They will have they're chiropractors, so they work on the whole body, but maybe they specialize in children chiropractic, and that's what they feel comfortable with and enjoy it. So they start their business by saying, we're children chiropractic. They get very comfortable in that. Then they extend to injury chiropractic. As I said, I'm kind of,
No, that's okay.
Types of chiropractic areas that are there. Is that what you mean? So even if it's your skill set, just to get yourself started, what are you strongest and most confident at?
Yep, absolutely.
And then even though you have all of these other skills, but they're not more like 60% skill, not 95%, you layer that on when you're got your confidence in the first one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's the same products as well. So you launch one product, get it right, get it in the market, and launch the rest.
Yeah.
You spoke about, you got into clarity. So
yes,
what comes next?
So there was the clarity and then there was the accountability.
Yes.
And I guess the accountability process can be quite a long one because we really want to get the business. It depends how quickly people move, but especially if you're looking at physical spaces and things like that, there can be lots of hiccups along the way. And one of the other things that comes up is the mental barriers. So starting to question, should I really do this? Is this the right space for me? Is this the right decision for me? There's all these other things that have come up. I'm not sure whether I'm going to do this or not. There might be external factors, like if we come back to like the space, how the negotiations with the landlord goes, those sorts of things. So there's lots of sort of barriers that can come up along the way.
And big one as well, because of the leases, the extent of time, the location, and if you get that long, that is it. It would be a huge barrier for people. So how do you help them get through that?
So that's where the coaching comes through as well. So that's around what are the things that are holding you back, and are there like limiting beliefs that are coming into this? Are there things that you're talking yourself out of it? I don't mind if you change your mind, that's totally fine. But let's look at why we're having these thoughts. Like, should we just give it a go and try and overcome those barriers? And a lot of the time, people will continue to go through that process. And it's just, I said this before, but I have the same things where things come up for me and I doubt myself and I doubt my abilities and external things come up and I think, oh, maybe that's not the path for me, or just questioning your own talents and abilities. So, I find having that external person to be able to work with you to work through some of those things just can help shift you onto the next stage.
It could also help helping them become aware of if that's truly what they want. For example, a space of their own.
Yes.
Or if it's something that they think they need to look successful.
Yes.
So, for example, the chiropractor, if she had this idea in her head that to be a successful running business as a chiropractor, she needs to have this space with multiple rooms and staff and all that. So if she can't get that, she doesn't do it at all. But maybe even going on the process with you, she realizes, hang on, I just want one room just so my clients get to come here, and I really want that for a comfortable life. Do you ever find that like halfway through the journey, people pull back and go, shit, is actually not really what I wanted. I'm really happy where I'm at now, and there's no fear around it.
I probably not so much that, but more that people's ideas they either change or they do start smaller. So there might be, exactly like you said before, there's a dream of having multiple rooms, this really beautiful space, receptionist, everything's really beautiful. But right now, let's just find something that's sort of temporary, semi-permanent, and get going, and then we can move into a bigger space and a more beautiful space. So that's something that happens. And another thing that happens is, people's ideas, they sort of grow and evolve as they go. And coming back to the MVP, they might open up their shop and start with one part, but have the intention of adding something else in, knowing that that's coming, but let's just start with what we were able to get across the line very quickly.
Yeah. Right, so after accountability, then what?
There's probably no official processes after that. It is just
being there. Because if they learn to say something and do it, it becomes a pattern, and then and that's where the coach.
So the accountability is really about that check-in. But then there's the marketing side of it. So, you could call that a step, but that's
having yourself as part of business.
Yeah, so the marketing comes into it as well. It potentially has come into it before now, like as we're starting to go along. So again, working out, where do we need to start building these things? Where do we start to look at who our customer is? Especially if we're looking at small towns, a lot of the time your customers, you might be promoting it to everybody in the town, but you still need to know who your ideal customer is. So we do go down that path and then work out, and that obviously ties into the branding and everything. So we go down that path pretty early on, and then work out the local marketing along the way.
So how do you help people with marketing specifically?
Yeah, so I do a bit of both. I still have clients that I do sort of the hands-on marketing for, and most of that's remote, so it's a lot more like digital marketing.
Yeah.
But I also help with like the coaching aspect. So it's probably more of a teaching, really. It's around helping them identify and work through knowing who your ideal client is, knowing your location, where are the best places to promote your business. So we can look at digital and we can look at traditional, especially in small towns.
Yeah.
The traditional media, so posters, outdoor media, print and newsletters and all those things are much more accessible. So we can look at including those in the mix as well.
And I'm going to take a little step back to the startup coaching talking speech.
Yes.
What advice would you give to some people that don't have a coach that might miss that they can tell themselves?
Yes. Okay. I think that it's really important to have a really good, sounds cliche, but self-care routine. I think, so some of the things that I do for myself, I started to meditate, and I just do, and a lot of people say, I can't meditate. But, there's meditations out there that are like 4 minutes long. You could probably find one that's 2 minutes long. The particular one that I use is an app, and I can go through, I often pick one. I'm always in a hurry. So I'm like, I don't want anything longer than 10 minutes. So that one's 8 minutes or 4 minutes.
What's the app?
It's called Mindspo.
Mindspo.
Yeah.
And QR. Yeah. So I haven't tried Mindspo.
Yeah. So I really love it because, as I said, you can go through and you can also pick themes.
Yeah.
So I can pick one that's around like self-love or resilience or like affirmations. Yes. Yeah. Or just starting your day. I can't remember the actual titles of some of them, but starting your day like on a positive note.
Yeah.
And I just really love it because it does allow you to reset and not carry some of the things from yesterday that might have been really stressful or getting you down into that next day. Yep. So there's a few other things too, like journaling.
Coaching is good.
Yep. Journaling. And again, it's another one that people often say, I don't know how to journal, but just start writing something down because something will come out. Or you can Google questions. So, you could easily go out and Google, what are some journal prompts?
Yeah.
And, that will start to get you going. But it's really what I like to do is just try and question the things that are going on around me, the things that I'm observing in other people, and then how can I apply that to myself? Or then I start to question, like, why am I having this thought? What?
It's the dialogue.
Yeah.
One of the moods journal, my coach called it a mood journal, and you write down like something will happen in your day, and you write down the feeling that evoked, and then you write the dialogue all around that feeling, and you just like dialogue it out, like what's actually going on in your head. Then you break that down. You're like, what's the meaning behind this?
Yeah.
It really does this mean, and that actually for me takes the longest part. But by the end of the meaning's like this big.
Yeah.
The dialogue's like this, and the feelings, by. And then at the end of that, you connect it to a mood. And there's like the 4 key moods. And then once you realize what mood that's attached to, you can figure out the shadow sides of that mood and figure out how to break it.
Yeah.
And clear it out. So journaling, it just makes you think and go deeper rather than staying in the dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah. It gets all the clutter out of your brain and it puts it down on paper, and like you can screw it up and throw it in the bin and never look at it again. If you feel like, oh, that's embarrassing, that's like, I feel a bit ashamed, like don't ever look at it again. Doesn't matter. Just get it out of your head. And yeah, it's really surprising what can come up on paper.
Reading something you've written, you're like, oh my gosh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Get over it. You're like, yeah, up and down. I've cleared my mind. I'm all good.
Yeah.
So we've got meditation, journaling. What's another one?
Yeah. So exercise, obviously. I live on the Gold Coast, and one of the things that was really important for me, so I'm very fortunate that I get to live really close to the beach at the moment. So I get up and I've actually got plantar fasciitis. So I used to get up and I used to walk along the beach every day, and I got to a point where I can't currently do that at the moment. So for me, it's about still going down there and having my connection with nature. So I just talked about exercise that used to be combined, but now that's my connection with nature.
Yeah.
And now I have to have a separate exercise regime, which is the gym, because I need both of those things to feel like I feel most happiest probably in my life right now, even though I have, a lot of other things going on. There's just some of these really key things that I just feel very content, and I definitely think that they are contributing factors. Yeah.
I'll work on that. And so with all of those 4 elements, because you mentioned nature, but that I feel is a really important part of self-care. It's just being with nature.
Yes. Yep. Yes.
I could hug a tree every now and then. What else would you add in there?
The other thing is just having a support network, whether they be other business owners, aspiring business owners, or, I have some really good friends who probably don't ever want to have their own business. I've got one who had her own business and went back to working in a job. But just having people who don't judge you, like they're happy to listen to you. They're not going to dismiss your ideas. Like they're just there and open to hear everything as it is. There's no judgment. They're not going to give you advice necessarily on what to do, but they're just there to listen and understand. So I think that support network is really good. But if you can also find some people who are kind of at a similar stage to you, I think that can be really helpful, especially if you don't have some sort of business coach or mentor.
What do you feel like you're on repeat with every single client?
Even going to networking events, and, they don't have to be your classic networking events. Like I've found this really beautiful group. They're actually in Brisbane, Gold Coast, Sydney and Melbourne, called Conscious Connections. And they do dinners, and it's really nice because people come together and you sit around over dinner. It's not about just going to a bar and drinking, and it's not going into this awkward thing where everyone's standing around the bar and you're like, hi, I'm Laura. What do you do?
You all those awkward ones where everybody's just sitting and you have your one turn to stand up and introduce yourself.
Yeah. Yep. So this one, you get matched with people. When you buy your ticket, you have to give like all your, I guess, hobbies and interests, but the things you're interested in. And then,
it's matchmaking.
Yeah. And then so it doesn't actually have to be business. So I think this is a really good one for aspiring business owners or anyone who's listening to your podcast who just, might have a desire to do something.
To be around other people.
Yeah.
Doing it. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, not even surrounding yourself with like-minded people. or surrounding yourself with people that inspire you, but it's just putting yourself in the environment of you just to be inspired.
Yes.
Also,
Yes.
even if you have some sort of type product and you continuously go to the big design markets and you see people at their stands doing it, it's inspiring.
Yes.
Let's do this, I can do this, but try not to get overwhelmed by things too big.
Yeah.
And also say to them, like, everybody started nowhere. Every single person started there and they signed up to their first ABN.
Yeah.
And had nothing.
Yes.
And it's about the resources that you can pull in to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. I came across something the other day on Instagram where a supposed Instagram expert put something up about Instagram, and then another person in kind of the marketing space asked a question, and the response that came back was like, "Oh, I'm surprised that you would ask that as an Instagram expert." And the girl was like, "Oh, I've never said I'm an expert. Like, I'm just helping people. I'm not an expert." And I just thought, this lady who is giving people flack for this, yes, she might have like 100,000 followers or 50. I can't even remember how many she had.
Yeah.
But she started somewhere, and Instagram is a self-taught platform. So it's another one where if I'm learning something, I'm learning from someone who also is self-taught. And I think that we all just need to remember that, yeah, everybody started somewhere, including people who have like all the marketing skills. They also had to learn Instagram because it wasn't around when they went to uni. So yeah, it's just a good reminder that even these people, whether they have their market stalls and lots of followers, everybody started somewhere. And, you know, if you scroll way, 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 way back, like their videos were probably really bad too. So it's fine.
And also things like Instagram and the digital marketing, it's changing all the time. So even if you wanted 10 years ago, all the stuff that you're doing 10 years ago completely doesn't even work now.
Yeah.
So even if you jump into the platforms now and you start learning, in 2-3 months' time, you're going to be fine. You're going to be doing all the things you meant to do because it keeps changing.
Yeah.
It's too late to start. It's like, well, there is no time to start because it's got to be changing in 6 months anyway.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, you're same with the market. So you might look at even a company or a market or something, and if you look at their stall, it looks amazing. They've got all these followers, but you break it down, you're like, you have a table, you have branding and a logo, you have your products.
Yes.
That's it. Like the facade or the feel of it feels bigger. But it's like when you break it down, that's all it is.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and they probably started making, you know, like if we're thinking about cookies, like they probably started making them at home the same way that you're making your cookies at home, and then they've really got really good at Instagram or marketing, and they've got really good branding, and it's just grown and to this point.
Story as well.
Yeah.
So as part of this podcast, we're going to interview some like founders who have grown, and I usually interview them after a few years. Listening to their stories from the beginning, they were like, I just had this one product and I put it on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
And then it just slowly, the snowball starts to roll. So it all starts somewhere in every story.
Yes.
If you keep putting the care and effort into it, it's going to grow.
Yep.
So, well, I would like to touch just on your business, like where are you going in the future now? So you help people start their businesses, help them grow them, get through their hurdles. What do you foresee where your business can go?
Yes. So I would really love to have a program that I take people through, a group program, because similar to what you asked me before, there are often times where there are repeated challenges that people are having, or there are repeated lessons that I might be teaching around marketing. So my plan is to sort of package that up and put it into a program to be able to take people through some of those aspects together. And that's then building on that network, talking about the like-minded people, working with the similar goals, and like they'll be able to learn from one another from that peer support and peer feedback. I've found in some of the programs that I've done that they've been really valuable as well. So I'd love to be able to incorporate that.
And what's your first step? What's your most important aspects? What is it?
Yeah. MVP. The outline of the
MVP, I always think most of the
yeah. Yeah. So also one of the other things that I'm doing is I'm writing an ebook on how to start a business. So I'm actually starting there. So that's my MVP. Yeah. Because then I'll be able to take that and turn the same or similar content into the program. So that's my MVP.
To the end of the ebook.
Yeah.
With that, you've got the base of the content.
Yeah.
Well, do you have anything else that you feel listeners should before we wrap up this podcast?
So as an introvert myself and someone who, I have dealt with a lot of anxiety in my life, I have also tried to push myself out of my comfort zone. And I guess, if you think about the comfort zone of the box, I probably have like a slightly bigger box. I'm not one of those crazy people that's going and doing all these crazy things, but I try and push myself out of my comfort zone. So my biggest thing would be, just try and push yourself out of your comfort zone, even just a little bit, and do things scared.
Yeah. So if somebody's really nervous about social media, I'm going to post one video story this month.
Yes.
That's all I'm going to do. One selfie video, God knows what. You do it. The next month, I'm going to post and just stories. I'm not talking like a blog or a post. Like, it's just a story that gets deleted 24 hours later. Yeah, it's just like us pushing like ever so slightly, and then before you know it, you're posting up video stories.
So that is really important. It's about showing up, not the results.
Yeah.
Yep. So if you were thinking about a physical space, like say you were an artist and you want to have a pop-up gallery exhibition, it's not about how many pieces of art you sell. It's about, did I actually have the exhibition? And did I open the doors and have the exhibition? Anything that you sell is over and above what the goal should be for your first step. And then you can grow from there and say, okay, I sold one piece of art. Maybe next time I'll aim for 2.
But actually having the exhibition's not so scary anymore because you've done it.
Yes. Yep. So it's about the starting with the opening, or if we're talking about social media, it's not about how many views. It's about just putting it out there. Yeah.
And are you taking any more clients on at the moment?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Yeah. Details and contact details will be in the show notes. And it'll be great for anybody who wants to build or start a business or push through, or even if they've got a current business and they want to know how to get through some.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast. This podcast is about trying to inspire young, new business owners, even current business owners who want to shift in their business, and hearing stories from other founders, but the advice from a coach will hopefully inspire. So, thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me.
So this is Truth on a Pedestal, Justine Malone, and Laura. Thank you so much.